And welcome to the Dakota Housing Network. You got Full House here today with Joe Sheehan off the road and out of the mortgage mobile unit. And
hey, Dave Floor, North Dakota Housing right here.
Of course.
And Greg Larson, Realtor
Extraordinaire.
is that it?
Yep.
And of course,
That's
the
you.
chairman of the board.
Hey, Jim.
Jim
There
Walsh.
we go.
Hey, apparently Hayes, chairman of the board today.
And that is why we're smoking cigars. And you can't prove it because we're on the radio.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Well, let's get started, of course, as we always do. Let's talk about mortgage interest rates, which are fabulous, but we have some big news coming up with the Fed and all kinds of other stuff. So what are mortgage rates going to do, Dave?
Okay. Well, the Freddie Mac survey came out for the week ending today.
Survey says
30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 3.43%, and that is unchanged from last week.
a straight unchanged.
Unchanged.
You don't normally see. I don't know if we've ever seen.
It's been
Not
a
that I
while.
can remember.
I don't remember it.
I don't remember that we've ever seen an actual unchanged rate from
It
week
always
to week.
wiggles a little bit.
Or the discount point wiggles a
The
little bit.
15-year unchanged from last
Unchanged?
week. Unchanged. There is no changes.
Did they forget? Do you
They
think
might
they
have forgot.
did
might
they
have forgot.
did
Well,
somebody
somebody
just
went
put
on-
out last week's?
Somebody went
No
on
one-
vacation. He's on vacation.
Just run the tape.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
Just nobody's gonna know. They're in the threes. Just do it
Yeah,
again.
But you go, wow, that's cool. Okay, it's unchanged. I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, it's just so. It's so much data that the idea that you'd
Yeah.
actually get a true unchanged number
Yeah.
from week to week on mortgage
Oh,
bonds would be.
Well, let's see what our friend Barry Habib at MBS Highway says about what you should do. I think he says float this week or today. But big meeting in Jackson Hole,
That's
Wyoming.
right.
The Fed, Janet Yellen.
They're waiting for Yellen to holler about those interest rates.
Do you
Tomorrow
have your
morning.
reservations, Joe? You going?
It's tomorrow morning.
Flying into Jackson Hole. They can't wait for me to get
Boy,
there.
they get up early out there in Jackson Hole. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time, which in Jackson Hole, that would be 8 a.m.
Yep.
She's going to be up and at 'em speaking
That's
to
amazing.
everybody. This is, what is it? This is like the Fed meeting, right? It's a special one they have every year. It's kind of like
Yep.
the state of the world.
State
sort of thing.
of the world. I love it.
The question is, will Janet Yellen side with Commissioners Dudley and Fisher and say that we should be hiking rates in September, or will she take the opposite approach and hurt the Fed's credibility even more? Ooh, could be scary. Credibility. They have a problem with that. Anyway, Barry is saying, rates moving sideways. No changes. He said, let's float and see what happens tomorrow morning at this big meeting. So,
Okay.
block them if you got them.
So if
Float
we're
if you
following-
want to.
If
You're
we're
not going
following
to get
your
hurt.
weekly trend, there will be no change.
Probably. We'll see. But it certainly tomorrow morning. That's a market mover, so to speak. It depends upon what she says.
And-
we could see rates go up, or we could see them go down.
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to see the Fed make a statement that's going to have to be interpreted as we still don't know, but we think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know what the Fed say today, but we think
Yeah. Should we could just do it ahead of time here, and
there'll be no
Say-
change.
there'll be no change. There you
Yeah,
go.
no change.
That's our prediction.
Yep.
We're
There'll
gonna stick to it.
be no change, but a threat.
Okay.
But they're coming.
It could be a threat.
Well, not a threat, but
Okay.
I don't know how she'd phrase it. She would certainly not say it's a threat. The markets would perceive it as a
She's
threat.
going to say a whole bunch of words that
That
you have to
goes-
listen really close to figure out, and then everybody's going to slice and
What,
dice it.
what she's going to do is she's going to say, "I'm not going to raise them today
Yeah.
but when your dad gets home."
There we go. Oh, boy. Then we'll see what happens. Huh? Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to something maybe a little more fun. Brady Bunch actress. She's a real estate
Marsha?
mogul, it seems like.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
Orange.
Yeah. Jim, cue the music, if you got it. The Brady Bunch actress Eve Plum. She played Jan. Marsha. Right? She didn't like Marsha. Her sister was mean to her. Well, Eve Plum, Jan from the Brady Bunch, God bless her heart, she struck it big in real estate. She's reaping the benefits from a decision she made when she was 11 years old. I would guess she's probably 50s now.
I would think.
Yeah. With the help, she bought the home with the help of her parents.
Okay.
Probably
At
needed.
11, you
probably
need
had
that,
to. Yeah. She bought the oceanfront property in 1969, so okay, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
for $55,300. She bought this in L.A.
That sounds cheap even for 40 years ago.
Yeah, this is it's on the south end of Escondido Beach. It's a
Yeah.
1950s cottage. She sold it just now for $3.9 million.
Hello. Can
Not
you say
bad
capital
investment.
gains?
Not bad for an 11-year-old
No,
making
good
an investment. It doesn't say if she ever lived there. I assume she probably did at some point. The home has 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths in 3,500 square feet of space. So, Greg, what do you think that would go for in Bismarck?
Wow. Significantly less.
Than 3.9 million.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
beachfront
It's
property.
like Price is Right. I'm
Yeah.
going to go lower by $1.
Lower by $1, yeah.
This is oceanfront property.
I think
too,
10% of that, maybe.
maybe 10% of that. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a nice house.
Yeah, that's a good square footage and everything, but you don't have the ocean front.
Well, put a picture up.
It's
For 10%, put a billboard facing the house with a
Or
beachfront.
just buy a lot up the river a ways.
There you go.
Yeah,
Well,
okay. All right.
then-
So anyway, good for Eve
Good for
Plum. Good for Jan from the Brady Bunch.
You know what?
Finally.
Yeah. What other celebrity has made just a boatload of money in the real estate business?
Be Donald Trump.
Not Donald Trump, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
In the mortgage business,
There's a
not in the
teaser.
mortgage business. There's a teaser.
Teaser. It's a Donald Trump.
Remember the
We have a
Beverly
Donald Trump
Hillbillies?
teaser.
Yeah. Okay. What?
Remember
Who is
the Beverly
Oh, yeah.
Hillbillies?
Sure.
Ellie Mae. Cute
Ellie
little
Mae.
blonde Ellie Mae.
Yeah.
Major Southern California real estate mogul.
Really?
Has made millions. in
Developer
real
or
Passed away last
estate. She
year.
died last year, but she made literally millions of dollars in commercial speculation.
Well-
Jethro's
Country
done
bumpkin.
pretty
well,
good,
I,
too.
well,
Jethro's done pretty good, too.
Jethro's done good.
Yeah.
well, with
In between being a double-aught spy and
Yeah.
well, you got to figure that Ellie Mae had a head start with all the ciphering Jethro was doing.
That's right.
Absolutely, her and Jethro.
I mean, when you got some top notch ciphering going on,
Oh yeah.
you got an edge.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, yeah.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Put in some cement ponds and
Yeah. Petting her critters.
yeah. Well, yeah, you have a little wildlife, some critters out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's showing up
I
pretty.
always liked when they sat around the pool table and they had the fancy for dinner and they had the fancy pot passing sticks.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Or the
Wait, yeah, let's. We're heading about just about 15 seconds. Teasers are. We've got some more.
We got
mysteries.
mystery shoppers
We
for
got
home loans.
we got Donald Trump in the mortgage business, and we've got my conversation with Betsy Duke from the Fed, who actually helped Elizabeth Warren write the existence of the CFPB. So pretty interesting
Now we
stuff.
have serious stuff about flood insurance.
A little serious, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Pump it up.
Pump it up from Elvis Costello.
Happy birthday, Elvis.
Currently, it's 56.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
And we're back at the Dakota Housing Network. Joe Sheehan, Dave Floor, Greg Larson. You got the full house.
Gang's all here.
It's a 3 of a kind or something. I don't know.
Something like that. Okay.
It's all deuces.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
All right. So, Joe, did you know there's mystery shoppers out there now for home loans?
There are.
Yeah. You hear about mystery shoppers for like Taco John's, right?
Yeah.
You get the thing in the mail. It says,
I actually
go
was a
eat.
mystery shopper for McDonald's.
For McDonald's, yeah.
About 6 months.
You know,
I gained 8 pounds.
You get it.
Just like, what's his name in the movie? The guy made the documentary about going to McDonald's every day. Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you get that thing where you go eat there and then you do a survey and you get a free meal, right?
Yeah.
Mystery shopper thing.
Yep.
Yeah, they do that. Well, now they're doing it to home loans, Joe. You better look out. They come
Watch
out.
out. They probably got me on the top of the list.
Just ask them if they want it supersized.
Free. But and then it's our friends at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, of course, that are doing this. They sent undercover investigators to Bancorp South to part of a probe into alleged mortgage discrimination. Now, if this bank was really, apparently there was a loan officer there that got visits from 2 people with similar profiles within 10 days of each other, both saying they were first-time home buyers, one white, the other person was black. The employee allegedly steered the black customer to a smaller and more expensive loan, even though her stated income and credit score were higher than the white applicant. So, okay, if that's really happening, it's a good thing that they caught him, or caught this loan officer doing it. But that's the CFPB has taken this to. They keep upping in the level of scrutiny here as far as pushing the envelope and actually sending a mystery shoppers out.
Okay, this is always a dangerous area to talk about, discrimination.
Yeah.
But like that's not why they wrote the rules. So you got this discrimination rule where supposedly the loan officer talked the black person into a lower loan amount. But the whole accusation in the creation of the CFPB by Elizabeth Warren was that you had loan officers talking black people into crap they couldn't afford.
Exactly.
Bigger loan amounts to get bigger commissions. So this is almost the slingshot effect of where, so the thing that loan officers did wrong in the that created the CFPB and created the secret shopper was that these dirty, rotten, greedy buggers were trying to talk minorities into taking and protected classes into taking loans they couldn't afford and doing things they shouldn't be doing. So then when it happens the other way and it reverses and you get the slingshot effect, now that's discrimination.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's not. It maybe it is discrimination. Yeah. And you should just treat every customer the same. Doesn't matter. Yeah. This is what you qualify for. This is what you should have. It's so funny how, though, the impugning of the regulators is always a two-sided coin. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you flip. Hey, you're screwed. We're going to flip a coin and just see. No, you're just going to be screwed. We just like to flip coins. I mean, it's you know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't matter what side of the coin you get, you're bad.
And the other thing with this is Bancorp South, they signed a $10.6 million settlement with the CFPB and the Justice Department. Again, they didn't admit any wrongdoing, and they disputed the findings, although they didn't specify which parts. The bank criticized the methods in the case, and this is a bank out of Mississippi. They went on to say zero tolerance for this type of behavior from employees. But again, this is one of those things where the bank looked at this and said, okay, let's try and we're going to settle this just because we just want it to go away. It's not worth fighting.
They didn't believe they did anything
Justice
wrong.
Department, but we didn't do anything wrong. And the CFPB agrees to that, saying, okay, bank, we'll let you say that, but just give us the $10.6 million and we'll go away. And so you don't know the facts of the case. Did it really happen or not?
And the sad thing is, folks, one of the great things about this radio show is we've had a ton of phenomenal people on this show. And we hope we actually missed our opportunity. We were all gone a couple weeks ago. And we actually had Richard Cordray, the guy who actually is in charge of this, was in town, wanted to do an interview on this show with Heidi Heitkamp. We missed the opportunity. We're hoping to get a phone interview set up with them about their visit to North Dakota. This would be a great example of one of the questions that would be great to have him answer.
Yeah,
is that there's a lot of negative fear and perception about the CFPB. You hear a story like this as a bank. Why shouldn't you be scared of the CFPB? Mm-hmm. Why shouldn't you be?
Yeah.
I mean, you're out trying to do this fuzzy, we're on your side kind of feeling right now. But why shouldn't we be afraid of the CFPB when we hear stories like that?
Yeah, and
where the bank's not agreeing to wrongdoing, but still paying $13. What did you say? Million?
$10.6 million.
$10.6 million.
Yeah, and if you're a lender, which side do you go here? Do you say, I'm just going to make everybody say, boy, you really shouldn't get that big. You shouldn't buy that house. It's too much for you.
If you're talking to a protected class, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the conversation has in it, which is what I'm sure happened. Is I'm sure there were questions asked. I mean, I don't know.
We don't know the facts.
But why would a loan officer ever sell a smaller? Almost every loan officer, folks, almost every mortgage loan officer in the country, almost everyone.
Yeah, it said
is on commission.
Yeah,
it said steered the customer to a smaller and more expensive loan. I don't know what that means necessarily.
I don't know.
And that's part of the reporting issue too.
Right, but almost every loan officer in the country is paid on commission. if they were trying to intend something bad for somebody, why would they ever advise a smaller, less expensive loan?
Yeah.
That would be like a guy coming in going, here's the cash. I'd like to buy a Lamborghini. Really, how much do you drive? Really? For your performance and the gas mileage and stuff, I'm really thinking we should just stick with the Toyota.
Malibu.
Yeah, the Chevy Malibu. Yeah. I mean, what car salesman would do that? So it's just like, you might say, you're sure you want the Lamborghini? It's expensive. You might double check just out of a moral standard and realize, this thing isn't even going to make it up your driveway because it's too low profile to cover your gutter based on where your address says you live.
Yeah.
But you're sure you're going to park it in the street? Well, it's your car, man. Here you go. Why would a loan officer? That's why I'm saying it almost just feels like you're set up. Why wouldn't I be scared of them?
Yeah. To me, this sounds like
it takes away your opportunity to be a counselor. Now you're an order taker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not going to offer you any different packages.
I'm not going to ask you any
I'm not going to
questions.
ask any questions. If you qualify, here's what you can qualify. There's the loans. Pick one.
Yep.
Because if you're in a protected class, I don't have any, and no can defend.
Yeah.
Anything that's perceived as wrong.
And that almost steers somebody to lenders say, well, okay, you need to go to a financial counselor or a home buyer counselor so you can help decide which one of these loans you want. And that's kind of what the CFPB wants.
And how do we know? And I mean, again, granted, we don't have the facts, but I mean, how do you know that what he did was he didn't do the wrong thing to the white guy or the white person or whoever it was? I don't know if it was a male or female, but if it was a white guy, how do you know the law officer didn't look at it and go, hey, white guy, not protected class, I'm talking him into a big loan amount. How do you know that the discrimination wasn't the other where it's like, I have a protected class person here. I got to tell them to do something responsible. White male comes in and you go, hey, dude, you should go for broke.
Yeah.
How do you know it wasn't the other way?
Yeah.
I mean,
do you get the sense, I do anyway, that we're coming into an era of no-win regulation?
That's what I'm saying.
Like right now,
you're going to do it
just
wrong.
real
We'll
quickly.
tell you when.
Yeah.
Later.
Good.
If you're a landlord, they've been telling you need to have a policy and stick with it. You need to have a policy and stick with it. Don't veer from the policy.
Yeah.
Well, the latest suggestion just came out, and I think it's from the FHA, that said, no, you got to use judgment. You can have a policy that says no felons. I won't rent to a felon. Now they're saying, well, you better take into account the felony.
Yeah. HUD came out with that guidance just in the last
But
couple months.
it's not. It's
just like underwriting for FHA.
It's not a
We're not
regulation.
going to tell you how, but we'll tell you when it's wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not a regulation, but we'll fine you when we think it's wrong.
Just so the listening audience knows, that is exactly how our audits go. This is exactly how our audits go. When the auditors from wherever, the FDIC or whoever comes in, they will not tell you how to do it right. They will only tell you you've done it wrong. It's your job to read the regulation and figure out how to comply. And when you don't know, CFPB, FDIC, doesn't matter. And when you don't know, they will just fine you for doing it wrong. But no one will tell you, well, now how do we do it right? Well, we can't tell you that.
We don't know. However,
you've done it wrong, and we're going to fine you.
this sounds like a downer show, but
But we're going to come
is-
back we're going to talk about this with Betsy Duke and give you some more insight into why this is such a big problem. And this is impacting you daily on mortgage lending. So when we come back, because this is why you got companies like Quicken and you got companies like the Rocket Mortgage. Why? Because every day through the daily process of accessing money from banks so that you can buy cars, so that you can get insurance, so that you can buy a home, so that it gets harder and harder and harder and more scrutiny and more scrutiny and more scrutiny. It feels worse and worse and worse to deal with your finances. And it's all because the institutions feel like they're in this, you can't win.
yeah.
And we're going to talk about what Betsy Duke had to say about it
Well, we got watching the detectives here from Elvis Costello. That's appropriate. We got detectives looking at us.
Last girl started one with a defect. Cellophane shrink wrap so correct.
Currently, it's 56.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on Super Talk 1270.
And welcome back to the Dakota Housing Network and Joe Sheehan.
Dave Floor.
Greg Larson.
Full house. So we're talking about why the regulations are scary because, and why the banks are all scared of the regulators and making it harder and harder for you to get money or get services. And so when I got a chance to meet Betsy Duke, got to speak with her one-on-one at the Lenders One conference in Los Angeles. She was on the board of governors with Bernanke and actually wound up being appointed by the Fed Reserve to work hand in hand with Elizabeth Warren to build to write the regulation that built the CFPB.
Okay.
And so she's testified in front of Congress. She was on the Fed board of governors. And I said, we all understand that, and now there's so much. We were talking about it long before these movies came out, but the Big Short and now there's been such good explanation via media and cinema on how this happened. I said, why do you have so much regulation against loan officers? I go, if every loan officer would have tried to do something bad, it wouldn't have been enough to create the financial cataclysm that created this. I mean, it'd be like saying that, if you had all the ants together in a ant pile, that they could move an F-150. No, they couldn't. You'd still need to get a piece of industrial equipment.
Yeah. Okay.
And the loan officers are the ants. I mean, this is way bigger than any of them. And she said, and I said, she goes, yeah, Elizabeth Warren knew that. She goes, Elizabeth Warren knew that.
Okay.
She goes, she absolutely knows that. But it's about the politics of it. It's about the activism of it.
Who to blame?
And it's about the fact that that honestly, she felt like that was a part of the system that it was, the greed and the way that loan officers conduct themselves and that they were overcompensated, and it was the politics of the street. Mm-hmm. And she goes, that was the politics of it. But she goes, Elizabeth Warren's brilliant. She goes, she knew that.
Yeah. Okay.
So and she said, she goes, as far as my opinion, she goes, I just have a job to do. Board of Governors says do this. That's what I do.
At the time, she had to.
Yep.
She had to
that's
work
what I do.
with it. Yeah.
And I said, tell me. I go, so you got Bernanke sitting there with Maxine Waters for 15 minutes berating him about how can he say that when the one time he did raise the interest rate, that this wasn't going to, you're promising us this isn't going to impact mortgage rates. And anybody with a Econ 101 bond class knows that if you raise the discount rates to the overnight rates to the bank, that you're not going to impact mortgage bonds. It's how that influences the economy to respond that will eventually affect mortgage bonds.
Right.
And he's sitting there going, I'm fairly certain that this will have no material impact. And he says it like 5 times. He's trying to be calm. I go, just tell me, what was it like when he came back out of, or when he would go to Congress and he's like, help me help you, write a policy, please. I have one thing I can do. I can raise or lower interest rates, or I can spend money and buy assets. Mm-hmm. Help me help you. Do something. And they would not do anything. Then he would come out, buy assets, and then everybody talk about how he's a terrible Fed. And I said he had no choice. And I go, what? I go, tell me what it was like. She goes, yep. She goes, sometimes he was very good at almost not swearing. Mm-hmm. She goes, he's a very controlled, disciplined guy. And she says, but yeah, she goes, you want to tear your hair out. You come out of those meetings with Congress and you want to tear your hair out. Yeah. And so it just, we talk about the politics of this and how this plays out. And it's just too bad because the answers that are happening in the back room aren't a lot different than things we talk about on this show when I was talking with her. And she worked hand in hand, built the CFPB, and she said, we know that loan officers didn't cause this.
We know the cause. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's something you can put out to the public as we're taking care of you. And the loan officer obviously is somebody that the public sees. They don't see the guy sitting in the hedge fund behind the scenes in New York City or wherever he's at. They have no idea about that, but they know about the person they're seeing across the desk from.
Plus, I think if you can find the crook far enough down the food chain to blame,
it's easy.
The guy to blame that can't fight back, that's who you blame.
Yeah, because you're talking, even, the average loan officer out there is a good earner, makes some okay money, but not the kind of money where they can pay endless attorney fees
Yeah.
and keep
Yeah.
themselves out of jail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You settle.
You settle or
settle.
you do some time.
Yeah. It was like the guy, I think it was.
But the head fund manager, he's got Johnny Cochran.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice news.
Okay. Nice.
Today.
News. All right.
In 1939, the premiere of The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that was good news.
The Yellow Brick Road.
Just think how happy that made somebody.
Let's talk about something else a little serious.
Okay.
Flood insurance.
Hello.
Flooding, of course, certainly in the news with what happened down in Louisiana in the
Yep.
last couple of weeks. And earlier in the year, we had West Virginia was hit hard. South Carolina, I believe, was hit pretty hard with flooding from rain, etc. And this comes from a writer, John Romano from the Tampa Bay Times, and he is advocating a little change to flood insurance. Right now, we have the National Flood Insurance Program.
Which expires, by the way, in October of 2017.
Right. And if you're in the 100-year floodplain and you're getting a mortgage on a house, you're going to be required to pay for flood insurance. And that's where people get flood insurance is through the National Flood Insurance Program. And what the writer is saying here, he is suggesting that instead of having people go out and buy individual flood insurance policies like they do now, is that let's just make it part of everybody's homeowner's insurance. So the insurance companies basically can spread the risk of floods across the entire United States.
Yep.
And, so because really in Louisiana, what happened was there were people, they were not in the floodplain. They might have been they were not in the 100-year floodplain. They may have been in the 500-year, but I think there were some that were not. They weren't in a flood hazard area,
They're in what's
period.
called the X zone.
They got
Unlikely
flooded,
to flood.
but it got flooded
Big
because
time.
of too much rain, and it's just astronomical amount of water in a short period of time, and so
Not really, excuse me for interrupting, but not really dissimilar to the flood of 2011
In Minot.
along the Missouri River.
yeah, and up on
and
Minot.
up on the Mouse River, too.
Exactly. The one here caused by we have a dam.
Well,
It's supposed to protect that to some extent
yeah, we won't get into that.
from that, but yeah,
But the root cause of that was, the higher than average snowmelt they
Yeah.
knew about.
yeah,
They should have made adjustments for and didn't the
Right.
rest of the
Yeah.
pour now. And then all of a sudden, 3 times the average annual rainfall for a year in southern and eastern Montana that they got in 10 days.
Right.
So 3 things happened. The Corps didn't respond to the
so
snowmelt.
man-made problem.
Yeah, they didn't respond to the snowmelt. They did not follow their own policy of keeping a pool level in all 5 dams so they could store flood water and release it slowly.
Yeah.
They did not do that. They also decided that they would hold back even extra water so that the Mississippi flooding wouldn't get worse.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they
Snowballed
didn't
on
react to the rain in time, and so they just got
Snowballed
They
on
didn't keep themselves in a position
Yeah.
to do what they could.
So anyway-
However,
So anyway,
it's kind of the same deal.
Mr. Romano from Tampa Bay is saying that's what his solution would
Yeah.
be is let's spread that risk. Let the insurance companies decide what the cost of that risk is, and let's spread it across everybody's homeowner's insurance. Now, Greg, you're involved in
Yep.
water resource. You're in
Yep.
the Burley County Water Resource District Board. Flood insurance. It's a big deal for the real estate community.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on this?
Well, as you know, I sit on the National Association of Realtors Insurance Committee. I used to be on the Flood Insurance Task Force. I am now on the Catastrophic Insurance Task Force. One of the things we're looking at right now is just what this guy's talking about. It's called all hazard insurance.
Yeah.
We're working on doing a policy statement now. We'd like to have it done in November. I can tell you the benefits to this is it would be spread across, a large spectrum. The politics is, why should I pay? I live in the prairie in Kansas. Why should I pay for a flood in someone in Louisiana? They should know better than to live there. Well, in this case, they should have known better, and they did because it never flooded there historically ever.
Yeah.
Well, why should the people in Louisiana pay for tornado insurance for Kansas?
Exactly.
You go play that game all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are some separate insurances, like there's a separate hurricane insurance you can
Yeah.
buy, but it's an additional rider to your homeowners insurance. We right now in North Dakota, we're paying in our hazard insurance a small amount for hurricane, for tornado, for
Earthquake.
So earthquake.
Yeah.
You and I have earthquake insurance. You know,
Yeah.
if there's an earthquake that happens here, we're covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and if you live in California, you've got to pay extra.
You
Yeah,
can
the
buy
risk is a little
you can
higher
buy
there.
supplemental,
Supplemental
Yeah.
because the risk is higher.
but you're basically covered. So there's a good argument both ways. NAR has not come up with their policy yet. We're working on it. I can tell you that I've talked with our outgoing insurance commissioner, Adam Ham, and he's not a big fan of it because it would be so difficult to regulate. The other thing with flood insurance is that there's only one actuarial table.
Okay.
There's only, very few rates. And so your risk can't be spread. 60%, last number I read, of the folks that were flooded in Louisiana didn't carry flood insurance, weren't required to carry flood insurance.
We're required?
We're not.
We're
We're
not
not.
required to.
So, and then there's the other talk about private flood insurance. Should that come in? Well, yeah, it should, because it would help if we could spread it. There are a couple of private insurance carriers now, but they cover a different kind of flood insurance. And would the private guys cherry pick and leave the national flood insurance program with just the high risk? So it's,
And you could argue too, though, that we're still kind of paying for the national flood insurance program because that's coming out of tax dollars.
Yep.
So everybody really is kind of paying for it.
And this started in 1978
and they're in the hole.
with the knowledge that it would never cash flow.
Yeah. So
So you
now
know what
we're
we're going to do?
$23
We're going to
billion
talk
in
about
the
changing
hole.
it
more.
just to leave it all the same. After this, we'll talk about Trump mortgage.
You said you'd stand by me in the middle of chapter 3, but you were up to your own tricks in chapters 4, 5, and 6.
Currently, it's 57.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
And we're back to Dakota Housing Network with Greg Larson and Joe Sheehan. So we're ending the segment. We talked about flood insurance. Basically, the idea is that we're all going to pay for it, and because it's really disaster insurance.
One way or the other, we're paying for it.
Right. So
if it's the national flood insurance program, hey, we're going to pay for it. And with something like Louisiana, we were talking over the break. It's a big payout at one time, and the flood insurance program is broke.
Yep.
So-
$23 billion in the hole right now, thanks to Katrina.
So even the people that will get a payout from that, we're going to have to come up with that money somewhere, somehow.
I'm going to make an argument to stick with the national scene on this, and here's why. Here's why. Because when you move big things to the private industry anyway, and then they fail, and they're too big to fail, who pays? We then it's a bailout.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether letting the private sector service the industry is the right thing, like we've done with mortgages and some of these other things, but fundamentally there has to be a government backing to it, because you're just kidding yourself if you don't think you're not going to do it someday anyway.
Yeah.
And then your budget isn't prepared for it. If I'm in the Senate, or if I'm in the budget committee, I'm saying I want this because I want a budget for the disaster. I want a budget for it because I don't want to be called up one day and go, oh crap, the country's going to collapse because we have another Katrina, and now we've got the largest 2 insurance companies in the country about ready to go belly up because the losses were far more than they could have ever prepared for.
Which affects
and now I got to go
homeowners
to
insurance.
Now I got to go to Congress and I got to raid Social Security to pay for a disaster because we don't have anything in the budget to bail out these insurance companies, and if they go down, that's going to leave all kinds of other industries that they provide insurance for uninsured, which is going to provide a collapse in a whole sector not even related to the flood. Yeah. I mean, that's the systemic damage that's done when you completely say you got to get government out of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
government has a purpose.
It does. It does. And it's to protect us from disaster or to protect us from invading enemies and stuff. And this is it's an economic invading enemy. Disasters are an economic invading enemy. And it's the government's job to protect us from these one-time big things.
Yeah, maybe there's an in-between there where it's a mixture of something. If, the government would protect you up to this amount
Yep.
or something, and then if you think you need extra,
Well,
you go out and buy it yourself. And that's
FEMA's
where private comes
disaster
in. I don't
relief
know.
fund will give you up to $36,000.
Right. That's
Right.
FEMA.
The average, for use, those of you who don't have flood insurance.
Yep.
The average payout from FEMA is about $6,000. Not everybody gets the 36.
Right.
The average is 6. So now we got flood insurance. Those of us who carry flood insurance, we think we're protected. The average payout for NFIP is about $5,000.
Okay.
So you're not getting your coverage anyway in most cases. However, NFIP, there's the figure is, and I'm going to shut up. We'll talk about something else. But the figure is about 30 to 40% of the people who should have flood insurance don't or do.
Okay.
So that's up to 70% who should have flood insurance don't because they're not required to have it if they don't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
So now what's happened is we're $23 billion in the hole, and we're going to be probably closer to 30 when this is all done. And we're going to ask 30% of the people who should have flood insurance to pick up the freight for the whole deal and to try to make that insurance whole.
Right.
That's why if it's allowed to roll, my personal flood insurance that I pay $709 per year now will be somewhere around $5,000 per year down the road. That's why some people will pay up to $30,000 per year for flood insurance along a river and up to $80,000 plus per year if they live along the coast.
Yeah. Well, it's a good topic because it does affect us here
Oh, yeah.
locally.
I got an
because we
idea.
got a river next to us and creeks and everything.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
got
something
an
we can
idea.
look
The
at
big
later,
challenge
too.
is going to be in Fargo.
Is more
If
stuff comes
something
up.
doesn't get fixed in Fargo, and they're going to redo the rate map in a couple of years, 20,000, I think, is the number. New homes will come into flood insurance that will be mandatory.
Yeah.
So
I got an idea.
Okay.
What we do is we take all the real estate that gets damaged in floods that doesn't have repair insurance, we turn it into a junk bond, and the Fed buys it.
there you go.
Something like that. Anyway.
The Fed's managed to make money on everything it's bought so far.
There you go.
I don't know.
All right. Well, let's finish up on something fun and a little
All right.
political and all that good stuff with Mr.
Trump mortgage. Hey, so
The Donald.
here's the deal. If you know a mortgage loan officer, if you know somebody who owns a mortgage loan company, go out, pat him on the back, and congratulate him because if they were doing it before 2006 and they're still doing it, guess what they did? They did something the Donald couldn't do.
They beat Trump.
That's
They beat
right.
Trump.
That's right. They won. They were winners.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. And there's no political statement on Donald Trump, but an interesting story about him is that in 2006, they advented the introduction of Trump mortgage.
Perfect
And
timing.
and wound up.
It's a great time to open a mortgage.
And that's what he
company.
said.
It's a great time.
It's what he said. It's a great time. Seriously, a great time. I'm 100% sure.
Yep.
It lasted a year and a half, which is kind of they blame it on the crash, but technically though 2006 was the peak. The mortgage market really didn't start collapsing till 2008,
Yeah.
and so
They didn't make it to the
and they didn't
collapse.
make it. They didn't make it to the collapse.
Well, that's because he didn't run it. He just lent his name and other people ran it and they didn't do the job.
And there's a quote: "It's a great time to start a mortgage company," he said. And what's funny is the article does a lot of criticizing of him in that he, while he was running this, he was also betting against the housing market and even said, one of his big quotes is, well, I kind of hope it does collapse because if it does, then a guy like me makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know why anybody be mad about that because
That's just harsh.
it just sounds, yeah.
It sounds bad, but
But that's what they do.
Yeah.
rich. That's what rich people do. Hedge funds do it.
Your 401k manager, your
what he's
401k
doing.
manager is betting against something every time he bets for something. That's how they protect you. They never have your eggs in one basket. They take whatever it is and they go, what's the chance of it succeeding? Okay, we're going to bet to succeed, but we're going to hedge for failure. And it's called straddling. It's called options. That's what you do with puts and shorts.
Yeah.
And you don't just ever buy long in something. You might buy long and short it. You buy so that if you do wind up losing on it, you lose less.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why. I mean, it just of course his delivery sucks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
he's
something.
Donald.
Do you know George Soros one of the richest people in the world, a gazillionaire. That's how I just read a book about him. That's how he made his billions, was betting on people to lose. Mm-hmm. Never on the come, never on success. He bet on people to lose, and he's a billionaire. And many times over because of it.
And one of the ways you're a billionaire is that you bet so that when you do lose, you don't lose 100%.
Cover it, yeah.
You lose a little bit. And so, so it was just one of those things that it was, if you know somebody who's been in the mortgage industry and they made it from 2006 to now, or they've started and they've made it, hey, you know what? Just as a badge of honor, you can honestly say, hey, I did something Trump couldn't do.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of one of the interesting side notes of his past where he made a bet and he lost.
Yep.
Oh, and
I got to close on. I just have
okay.
to. We're running short just because it's so hilarious.
Okay.
On this day in 1835, the great moon hoax started. There's a satirist. He wrote under the pen name of Dr. Andrew Grant. He wrote phony articles about discoveries made by Sir John Herschel, who was building the largest telescope in the world at the time in South Africa. Now, the telescope wasn't done. It wasn't finished. And he started writing these articles. It was the first telescope big enough to do a detailed study of the surface of the moon. He talked about them seeing unicorns and flying men with bat-like wings and two-legged giant beavers and all kinds of descriptions about the waterfalls and the canyons and all this stuff on the moon.
Oh, boy.
All right? He was very successful. He sold these articles all over the world. And then, when the telescope was finished, he said, yeah, it's all a joke. And everybody thought it was funny.
Oh, boy.
Okay, I mean, it was a
I want
hilarious
to hear more
joke.
about the giant beavers.
Yeah, right. All right. So he wrote under the pen name of Dr. Andrew Grant. What do you suppose this guy's name was?
Moonbeam. Zappa.
Richard Lochte.
Richard Lochte. Oh, boy. Was it a relative?
I don't know, but I just thought that was hilarious.
We've been Lochtey'd again.
Yeah, the Lochte effect.
That's
is
the
in full
new.
force.
That's the new phrase for lying now. Is I've been Lochtey'd.
Yeah.
Or I Lochtey'd you.
Anyway, that's all I had. If you want to get serious again, Joe, knock yourself out.
Okay. Well, next week
Next week,
we're here again.
we are.
We don't know if we'll all be here again, but
You never know.
Greg's here.
Yep.
I'll
and
probably
we're
be
gonna,
here.
We're going to try to talk to the president of the North Coast Association of Realtors.
Oh, okay. Okay. Who is that?
It's sure you would ask me that, right?
Yeah.
Cindy Harvey out of
Yeah.
Minot.
All right.
Super Talk 1270 KLXX Mandan, Bismarck. Listen anytime, anywhere, online at supertalk1270.com.